All right, everybody. I'm here today with Jason Womack, and I'm just really excited to talk to him because he's somebody that I've followed for a number of years and that really seems to have a passion for helping people take their best and make it better. And in fact, so much of a passion for that he wrote the book on it called Your Best Just Got Better. And he is an author and a speaker and somebody that I really think that has a lot to share. So Jason, why don't you give people who don't have the opportunity to have known as much about you as I do to give us the 2 minutes on Jason Womack. What do you do?
Well, Geoff, first of all, I think we're both longtime listeners and first-time callers of each other. I've been following your stuff, and I believe we intersected, if not for the first time, but for the real time, when Jody and I had moved up toward Homer for a summer a few years ago. And, I mean, that's probably a great way to introduce myself to the audience. Jody and I are fans of lifestyle design. And we really take this concept of being the architects of our own experience very personally and professionally. I wrote a book called Your Best Just Got Better. People ask me all the time, Jason, how long did it take you to write the book? From the moment I got the contract until it was given to the publisher was 4.5 months. But it's been about 20 years. That I've been working through this material. So in my last minute of just little intro, here's the stuff to get out of the way. I have 2 master's degrees, one in education. I went and taught high school for several years. I went back to school. I got another master's degree in psychology, and I studied, Geoff, the impact of self-talk on performance. Why is it that some people are higher performers, and it's not just what they do, we found it's how they think. And for the past 7 years, I've run my own company. It's called the Jason Womack Company. And I produce workshops and on-site presentations for companies worldwide. And those presentations are called Mastering Workplace Performance. And they're all about this experience, like I was saying, of architecting that day-to-day kind of work-life thing. I won't call it work-life balance. But maybe that's something that we can talk about as we go through today. Yeah,
excellent. Well, and so you talked there just for a moment about the way that we think about our work and the way that sort of internal self-talk. You talk a lot, both in your podcast and your book, about MITs or the most important things. Can you speak to that for a minute about what the value in considering those is?
Absolutely. I do a lot of work one-on-one with company founders, entrepreneurs, C-level executives of Fortune 50 companies. It seems like anybody is a candidate for this kind of work. And here's one thing that I found. People will rewrite to-dos on their to-do list when they're very important things. Then we started studying a little bit more, and over again, I noticed that people were rewriting nouns. They were checking off verbs. So I just started asking people, it's like, what are the nouns that you keep rewriting? And it was things like health, family, career, education, community. Literally, I worked with a woman and she had written community down on her to-do list. And I asked her, I said, what is that about? She says, well, I'm kind of volunteering for this one foundation and I haven't been to many meetings, blah, 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 blah. And I said, hold on a minute. That's not a to-do. That's an MIT, a most important thing. So let me leave all of you watching with a tactic. Take out a blank piece of paper and from your professional life and your personal life, have you write down 5 to 7 MITs for each part of your world. What are the 5 to 7 things that you want to be great at this year at work? What are the 5 to 7 things you want to be great at in life? Can I give just a couple examples? So on my professional side, I write things down like author, coach, futurist. Over on my personal side, I'll write things down like husband, homeowner, triathlete. Now, out of those MITs, you could imagine, come the tasks, the calendar items, and the to-dos.
Yeah, and from personal experience, for anyone who thinks, that's a good idea, but doesn't actually want to do it, it's really, really worth doing. It really gives you some focus, not just about what matters to you, but what you're capable of doing. Because I think in a lot of cases, we have these grand ideas, we want to do everything. And yet there's only so much you, and you have to really kind of focus on the things that really matter the most to you, that you have some influence on, that you can move on. And so speaking of moving on things, you also talk a great deal about thinking about your day in 15-minute blocks. And I intersected with this in a very real way a couple of weeks ago. I'm a procrastinator, and I like to get overwhelmed with things. I think that's probably a personality trait. I enjoy getting overwhelmed. No, but I found that that came to mind. The idea of breaking a section of time down into 15-minute groups really came to mind. How did you come across this? What sort of led you to thinking about time in that way?
I used to say I didn't have enough time.
Okay.
Okay. I can sit down in a group, personally, professionally, with my friends, with my family, with a client, and if someone around that dinner table says, "Oh, I didn't have enough time today," what will everyone do? Neither did I. Oh, I hear you. Oh, I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And then I started to look at it, and I said, you know what? What's the real problem? The real problem isn't the tick-tock of the clock, because that keeps on going. What the real problem was, I think, is focus.
Okay.
I can focus on something, and if I'm in, I'll actually make greater progress faster. Real quick parallel that I just want to say for the audience watching this. Procrastination works. And I'm saying this with a smile because it takes one to know one. The reason procrastination works is because it forces you to focus. So my thinking was, how do I reverse engineer that? And the 3 reasons that I came up with for why 15, actually, let me give you the 4th reason first. The 4 reasons that 15 minutes was so important. Here's the first one. When I took 15 minutes and I kind of divided that through the day, I came up with, it's about 1% of my day. Okay, there's 1,440 minutes in a day, okay? So 15 minutes is 1/96th of a day. So that was kind of the first little thought that popped to my mind as I was sketching this out. Real quick, 3 reasons why 15 minutes is so important. Number 1, it's about my attention span. Literally, you give me a book and a sofa and you say, Jason, go read. I'll make it about 15 minutes. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit shorter, okay? Number 2, if I'm focused, 15 minutes is actually a long time. I mean, seriously, if I sit down with that book, if I sit down in that email, if I sit down with that article idea, if I give myself 900 seconds where that's all I'm doing, I can make major progress downstream. And the 3rd reason, and this is the one that was huge for my clients, you will get 15 minutes multiple times a week. Literally, this morning, I went to the gym, did my little thing, met Jody at the coffee shop, came home because I had an 8:45 interview that was supposed to be 30 minutes long. I was home, 8:40, I'm getting ready for this thing. 8:45, I call in, no answer. I send an email, no response. I send a text message, nothing. So I went inside my head and said, well, I have 2 15-minute blocks. Do I do what I always do? Check email, get busy. No. I shut the computer down. I pulled out my journal to 2 blank pages, and I scripted out an important project. You ready for this? That's not due till June. Huge for me.
Yeah. Well, and what you spoke to about procrastination is for me, I really think that focus element is critical, because procrastination often leads to a limit. There are fewer possible outcomes. The more you procrastinate, you don't have 3,000 possibilities. You have 4 possibilities that you can now do at the last minute. And so that idea of being able to capture focus and really being able to force yourself to really be present with a project or an idea or an article or book or whatever. And 15 minutes lets me off the hook, because
I can do it.
Yeah, I can handle 15 minutes. I can do this for 15 minutes, and if I decide that another 15 minutes after that will work for me, I can make that choice. But yeah, I love that idea.
I think people radically underestimate the value of small things repeated.
Yeah.
I mean, just in the health sector, it's like, look, it's coming to spring, summer in a lot of parts of the northern hemisphere, at least. Try this: walk out your house, walk 7.5 minutes away, and then walk 7.5 minutes back. Do that 3 times this week, just to see what happens.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I also love something that you talk about sort of building your network, and you talk about your social network different than social media, but the people that you're connected to. And you had this great idea about making a list of people who you felt like could mentor you, could be an influence that you could sort of learn from.
Right.
And I wrote your name down on that list. As soon as I heard that on the podcast, I run with you a lot. I spend a lot of time on the treadmill listening to you, catching up on some podcasts because I didn't get started when you started. And so I have a lot of Jason to listen to. And that was one thing that it was like immediately I really connected with that idea. How has that influenced your work in terms of connecting with people that you really felt like could have an impact in your work?
This is critical. And I'm watching the clock. I know you are too. We want to make sure that we get people in and out. That's always a promise I make. I'm going to drop in some great ideas. And there's more.
Yeah.
At the improv. Yes, and.
Yeah.
So let me do this as concisely as I can, because this, Geoff, this is huge. And in the book, chapter 5 is my favorite chapter. It says, improvement in the social network. If you want to go far, fast, go together. Here's what I found. And I can think in small groups. So 5. Let's just start with that. And the 5 people that you spend time with over the next 72 hours will influence what meal you make, what book you read, and what video you rent. Okay? Don't debate me on this, right? In the past couple months, have you made a meal, gone to a restaurant? Have you bought a book or downloaded a Kindle, or have you rented a movie because of someone's recommendation? Yes. Now, here's the kicker. If the 5 people I spend time with for the next 72 hours, if they could change what movie I see, what does that mean about how I treat my health? What does that mean about how I am as a husband? What does that mean about the volunteer efforts that I make inside my community? Jason, are you saying then that if I hung out with someone different, I might get engaged in a different non-for-profit? Yeah. You mean, Jason, if I hang out with someone different, I may dress a different way? Yeah. So now it's a matter of future casting. And this is probably important for everybody watching this video. When I work with someone, I'm not dealing with the present. I'm certainly not dealing with the past. What I'm looking at with you is the next 36 to 60 months at what you're doing today, how that will manifest itself.
Yeah.
So you and I, we're big fans of the thank you card process. And I got the one that you wrote to me. Woo!
That's awesome.
But I know for me that writing a thank you card a day, that's my goal, writing a thank you card a day expands my influence out to other people in ways that I may never know.
Yeah, that's great. You spoke about time, and I certainly appreciate that. That we want to keep it concise. So, and I love that you folded the thank you card element in there, because I know that that's something that we both share. We both have a concerted interest in expressing that gratitude, and I know you travel with thank you cards and do that whole thing so that you're prepared at any moment. That sort of that 15-minute block of time kind of thing. You can fill that with, hey, I'm gonna do my card now, because I believe you travel with pre-stamped envelopes, and you're ready to.
I have them inside my Moleskine journal, and the thing with that is over on my list of MITs on both personal and professional, there are elements of awareness and presence. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but there's only a few things that I experience in my life that are really pointed examples of being aware and present. One of them is racing triathlon. I mean, I think the main reason I love racing triathlon is because while I'm racing, and then even while I'm training at high intensities, there's nothing else on my mind. Writing a thank you card. Takes me 4 minutes, 5 minutes maybe. I fill in both sides. I mean, I tell stories. I tell them where I am that day. And then at the end, it's like, thank you for being here. And that's huge. It's huge.
I think so too. I agree. I think that's a great place to end this little conversation on that note. I just really appreciate you taking the time to spend a few minutes talking to me. When I offered the invitation, I was so excited that you accepted. So
absolutely,
I really appreciate that. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to know more about you, about your book, about your coaching, about the Get Momentum program? How do they know? How do they find out about
the
that?
fastest way is just to email me. And I don't know if in this video, if you want to drop in just jason@womackcompany.com.
Perfect.
And if you go to go to Google and type in Jason Womack. That's probably the fastest way to kind of see what's out there. Simple. I got a ton of videos, the podcast. Stay tuned. I'm going to date stamp this interview. The podcast will achieve episode 100 in less than a month.
Yeah.
And that's every Friday, 4 to 7 minutes. That's the podcast.
And let me give my little plug for that, because I think sometimes, of course you're going to plug it, but as somebody who is a user of it, let me just plug it. The podcast is, you keep it crisp, you keep it to the point, so it's easy to consume. You don't feel like you're soaking up a bunch of your day listening to it. You can get in and get something great. And it's a great free way to figure out if you want to buy the book. Thank you for your time, Jason. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Right, bye, everybody.
Bye. Awkward pause, and thank you for real.